All right, you may just want to put your view in, we can see more than just your slide there, Dr. Weeks.
Right. Okay, so you can see the top up
Yeah,
here.
you may just want to go to view there.
Okay, so what I did was, I'll show you what I did. So I went view. So I'll just go to the present then.
Yeah, that's better.
Perfect. And let me just see if I know I got to advance. It's just the arrows, so that's really easy.
All right, so we have people streaming in. Nice to see you. We have Dee. Oh, Felicity, nice to see you. Nice chat we had this morning. Jean from BNI, nice to see you. Kathleen, always a great supporter of Vintage Fitness. Marcy, Pam, Yoakum. Oh, you got in. That's perfect. And Roya and Sita, nice to see your face. Tony Wagner, newer to Vintage Fitness. Great to see you joining us from Guelph.
All right. We got a good turnout.
You know,
Hi,
we
everyone.
got a great turnout. Yeah, so I'm sure we'll get a few more people as we go. But I think we're probably all starting to get familiar with Zoom. So if you do have a question, you can either do the question and answer feature, or you can use the chat feature, which I'll be sending out various chats as we go. All right, let's get going. So again, Dr. Weeks, you might just want to present your whole screen there. I can just see part of it.
Sure. Okay, so let me get out of here. So I'll make it full, and then, because yeah, so if I go to full screen,
if you go to present,
as full as,
oh
okay,
yeah, if you
so
go
I did
up to
the
present,
last
that's
time.
better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's better.
So view, that's what I thought I did the last time, but let's see. Okay, but I probably got out of it. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
perfect.
that's it.
All
Perfect.
right, there we go.
My tabs.
So again, I'd like to welcome you all here. It's great to have you join us on a gorgeous Monday morning. Oh, who would have thought November 9th we would get this sort of weather? I have my door open and it's amazing. So if I don't know you, my name's Erin. I'm the owner of Vintage Fitness. We do personal training in home and virtual for seniors across the GTA and really anywhere. We have 8 languages that we train in, so you could be anywhere. I'm really happy to welcome our guest today, Dr. Lisa Weeks. Dr. Weeks is a naturopathic doctor. She's been a naturopathic doctor since 2007. And one of the reasons I really enjoy working with Dr. Weeks as a naturopathic doctor is before she became a naturopathic doctor, she was a researcher in the traditional hospital system. So she worked on cystic fibrosis at sick kids. You're a BC Cancer Agency, and she did some heart health work at Notre Dame University. So I find that as a naturopathic doctor, Dr. Weeks is really good at marrying some of the traditional systems and some of the natural systems. And I really like that partnership. Her main focus is on not masking your symptoms, but really finding out what the root cause of your illness is. And I thought, considering the weather eventually will get cooler and we're a bit still in isolation and COVID numbers are a bit high, this is a great opportunity to think about, well, what can I do from a natural perspective to prevent getting sick and to boost my immunity? So again, thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Weeks.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited to be here. And I can get started if you want. I can start with a story. Mm-hmm. Yes, I wanted to start with a story. I found I was watching the Nature channel years ago, and this just stands out as nature at its best, how our immune system, we can use it and work with it to fight off an infection. So there was an anaconda snake. I'm not a fan of snakes, but anyway, it was swimming in the Amazon and in the river, and it had an abscess in its mouth. So an abscess is like a cyst that's infected. It was probably caused by a bacteria, and they don't have antibiotics in the jungle or in the Amazon. So what did the snake do? It actually ended up swimming in shallow water because the water there is warmer, and that can help to induce or support a natural fever. because fever is one of our natural ways for our body and our immune system to fight off the infection. The germs can't thrive when the body temperature is higher, and it mobilizes our immune system to fight off the infection. We have a lot of fever phobia. Granted, there's times and places where we can be worried about fever if it's getting way too high, you know, close to 40, 42, if it's in young infants or kids and we don't know the cause, for example. But in general, we want to support our natural immune response so our body can fight off the infection. Hopefully, we don't have to resort to antibiotics or any other medications, but it's there if needed. So I wanted to set the stage for the presentation because, yes, we can talk about, you know, we obviously want to prevent getting sick from exposures, which all of our physical distancing is doing, wearing a mask, washing our hands, using hand sanitizers. But we also want to strengthen what we call in the naturopathic world our terrain. We want to strengthen our system. So yes, when we are exposed to viruses or bacteria, which we're going to be continually year after year, we want to make sure our body is in the best state to be able to either fight it off or to not get as sick and recover quicker. So that was just my little preamble before we jump in. So let me advance the slides here. So you already did the nice introduction there. Thank you so much, Erin. And I really enjoy, we've been working together. We've known each other. It's a fairly new relationship, but I really respect what you're doing in terms of supporting a population that still wants to stay active, be as healthy as they can, maintain mobility. I think it is definitely important. So I'm really excited to do this presentation with you. So let me see. I think you can see me now. Oh, great. Let me position this. Hello, everybody. I'm not just a voice anymore. And I don't know, Erin, if you wanted to speak to this slide at all.
Yeah, so again, a lot of the people on the call are vintage fitness people. We have, I have a couple of people from Nova Scotia joining. So welcome, nice to have you. So Vintage Fitness is, we only work with seniors. We're quite specialized in the area. Clients do achieve their health goals with us, but it tends to be slow and steady. It's not the 90-day transformation, it's not building the bikini body, but it's slow and steady, making the right choices, like a lot of the stuff Dr. Weeks will talk about today. And we've been doing this for a while. We started the company, I started it when I was pregnant and with my second daughter in 2005, and she's almost 16. So it's been a while we've been doing this type of work.
Great. And a little bit about me. I should have had some more images here, but I really, as you said, Erin, I like to get to the root cause of disease or symptoms. So my goal is to tap into that healing power of nature, for example, you know, that healing response with a fever, or when you cut yourself, our body has this amazing ability to repair itself. So we want to tap into that energy, remove things that are going to impair that, right? Things that it can impede our natural functioning. And I'm trained in different tools to do that. So I can look at what you're eating. We can go through your, you know, if you're deficient in any vitamins or minerals, if any foods are causing you problems, and coming up with a plan to eat well. I use acupuncture. So that can be great when you are sick with, you know, congestion or colds and things like that. But I also use it for hormone balance, stress reduction, tight muscles, etc. I love using herbs and plants. So whether it's in tea form or tincture form, this is a great way to use the force of nature, right? That gives us such a great profile of natural substances to support us in so many ways. I also counsel people on making healthy daily choices. This is the foundation for our health, right? Sometimes people are like, it's all or nothing, but no, it's actually those little things that you're doing on a regular basis that add up. So we'll get into some of that today for immunity. I'm also trained in using water to heal, which is called hydrotherapy. So whether it's ending your shower in cold water, whether it's using what we call a warming socks treatment to strengthen your immune system, those are some of the tools I have too. I have extra training in using bioidentical hormone creams for hormonal imbalances in females, whether it's, you know, PMS, menopause, perimenopause. And I'm also trained in using an alternate form of a thyroid medication called desiccated thyroid. And I do have training in homeopathy, which I love using in children, especially when they're getting sick. That can help to strengthen their system as well. You can see the list of my focuses and practice, but a lot of digestive issues, skin rashes, hormone imbalances. And I'm seeing more people in their 50s, 60s want to either prevent diseases that run in their family, or they might start to note their blood sugars or blood pressure is creeping up. They want to be proactive, or their doctor said you have a few months before you have to take any medications. Go make some changes, come back, we'll see what we need to do. I see those people a lot in my office. And then I do help people optimize their bone health and energy levels too. So that's a little bit about me.
And Dr. Weeks, I'd say for us, we see a lot of clients that really fatigue is a big issue that our clients often deal with. High blood sugar is another big issue. Often they'll call us and they have concerns about high blood sugar. And then bone health, especially bone density, is another big one that our clients have often have some concerns about.
For sure. So yeah, I could help create an individualized treatment plan using, foods, if herbs are needed or supplements are needed, and just come up with a strategy to support those concerns. Because yeah, those are pretty big problems now, right? A lot of people with diabetes, hypertension, and bone density can be a concern as we get older too. Yeah, so I'll go through a success story. This is kind of like, a common kind of story that I see where people come to see me for immune issues. I see a lot of teachers, nurses, where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm exposed to all these viruses and bacteria. And, those first few years when they start teaching or nursing, they're like, I'm getting sick all the time. I have to take sick days. What can I do? So they come into my office, we go through their health history, and I discover, so for example, here's one who's in her early 50s. She wasn't a teacher or a nurse, but she'd switched jobs. She had a lot of stress, so she was getting sick a lot. So she said, I need some help. I'm sick of taking antibiotics one round after the other. Like, yes, it may get rid of that infection in the short term, but I keep getting it again and again. She wasn't sleeping well because of the stress from the new job. She wasn't taking any vitamins or supplements. To unwind from the stress at night, she would have, a glass or two of wine every night. It didn't matter if it was weekends or weekdays. And she was eating a lot of takeout because she was working overtime. So she came to see me, and we first started with her diet. So we looked at, okay, what are you putting in your mouth? Because that's the foundation for your whole health, right? It's the fuel that feeds all of our cells and organs and tissues. And if we're putting poor fuel into our car or into our body, it's not going to run properly. It's going to break down. You're going to feel tired. You're going to get sick. So we looked at, okay, how can we switch from eating takeout, or, are there healthier options you can choose? Do you need a meal delivery, subscription or something like that? That'll give you some healthier options. I gave her some recipes too. And then I did even some food sensitivity testing. So this is a blood test to see what foods are causing or adding to the inflammation in the body. And that can weaken your immune system because your virus or your body is building antibodies to foods as it would against a virus or a bacteria. So you're kind of using your immune energy in an inefficient way. So we figured out she was reacting to dairy was a big one for her. Eggs actually came up for her. So we cut out those foods from her diet, focused on her eating well. And then we tried to, would she be able to wean down the wine, get a little bit more sleep? We'll talk about why this is so important for immunity. We looked at adding in some immune boosting supplements like vitamin D, C, and probiotics. She did change her diet a bit. So she said, I'll leave the alcohol to the weekends, I'll have some relaxing tea at night instead. So after, she'd been sick for, 2 years, probably every 2 to 3 months, especially worse in the fall and winter. And after seeing me for 4 to 5 months, she didn't have an illness. And she actually made it through the winter with just one cold, and she got over it a lot quicker. So there was really good success there. And it can be small things, just getting a half hour extra sleep, just eating a little bit better. So today we're going to talk about what the immune system is, causes of illness. We'll touch on fever again, because I talked about how that's an important immune response, and then simple ways using your lifestyle, different foods to incorporate, tea and supplements. But just as a disclaimer, so I am not your doctor. I am not your healthcare practitioner. I don't know your health state. I don't know which medications you're on. So this is just general advice, or general information, I should say, not advice. So always consult with your healthcare practitioner to make sure it's safe with your health conditions, any medications you're on. And at this point, so I'm not going to be talking specifically about SARS-CoV-2 or coronavirus or COVID-19. I can touch on some of the studies a little bit, but we still need more more information for that. So nothing's proven to be effective in the treatment or prevention, other than obviously the physical distancing, the wearing the mask, the sanitizing and cleaning the hands, but they're starting to look at actual supplements and vitamins. So there's potential there. So I don't want you to go home and say, okay, I'm going to do all these things. I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to get COVID-19, but at least you know you're strengthening your system in general against viruses and bacteria. And I just wanted to see, how often do people get sick? Like, are you getting sick, once a winter, twice a year, every few months? So there's a poll there. So let's just get a sense. How often are you getting sick? So I see, so twice a year, or how many times do you get a cold? Yes, so twice a year, once a year is going up. Looks like once a year is winning right now. More than 3 times for a few people is coming up. I know it can be really debilitating if you're sick, month after month, a few weeks after a few weeks. So it's looking at what can we do to strengthen your system. So I'll just give it another, it's up for 30 seconds. So that's great. And this is a cold, people can get the flu, sore throats, bronchitis. So things can be even more severe for people too. So it looks like right now, the winner is once a year at 61%. Twice a year, 30% of you get sick or a cold twice a year. More than 3 times a year, 9% of you do. So thanks for answering that. It's always just interesting to see. So let's talk about, what is the immune system? So the immune system is our body's defense against viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites, and even cancer. So I always like to simplify it. We have 2 lines of defense. One is our barrier system. So we have, saliva, which actually has antibodies in it. Our mucous membranes, like in our nasal passages, for example. Our stomach acid can act as a barrier too, because it can kill off bacteria, and it has those properties there. So we have even our skin as a barrier, and we have our microbiome, our good bacteria on our skin and even in our mouth. So that's the first line of defense. So if that organism that causes illness penetrates it, then it goes deeper into our system and we have a cellular response. So we build antibodies, we make different types of immune cells to fight off the infection. So there's a couple of stages of, exposure and then what happens in our system. Let me just go down. So this is a depiction of just different parts of the immune system. So areas with immune activity, our adenoids have immune activity, our tonsils, our thymus just above our heart has the most activity for our immune function. And this, unfortunately, as we age, shrinks. So our immune system does get weaker. We don't have as strong of an immune response, and we can't make as many white blood cells. The lymph nodes are the checkpoints, the spleen is involved. The lymphatic vessels are basically how our immune cells travel around the body. They kind of rest in our lymph nodes, so they become swollen when we're sick, and they have some action there. Our appendix has some immune activity, our bone marrow as well. So it's all over our body. And we know what causes illness. We always think, yes, it's the virus, it's the bacteria, it's a fungi, it's a parasite. Yes, those cause illness, but we have also what we call our terrain. So our state of health when we are presented with one of those infectious organisms actually may influence whether we get sick or how bad it is or what the outcome is. Granted, there's different viruses and bacteria that are way more virulent, or they spread a lot quicker, cause more serious disease. And sometimes we're doing everything we can and we can still get pretty sick. But there is some things we can do just to set ourselves up, so we know we're giving ourselves a leg up to be proactive. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So your terrain, or your immunity, as we'll call it, can be lowered by sugar. So I don't know if you've heard this, but actually after consuming sugar, within 20 minutes, you have lower levels of white blood cell activity or macrophage activity. These basically gobble up different viruses, and that effect can last up to 5 hours or more. So that's pretty shocking. And then if you're eating sugar or food with sugar, it probably doesn't have vitamins or minerals, right? So it's very devoid of those. So it's almost like a double whammy for your immune system. If you're deficient in certain nutrients, we'll talk about that in terms of, vitamin C, vitamin D, for example, your immune system's not going to respond as well to different viruses or bacteria. Even if you don't have enough protein, which a lot of people don't typically get in, especially with breakfast. This is needed to make our antibodies, to balance our hormones. So we want to make sure you're getting everything your body needs. We know stress depletes the immune system. You're not able to fight off viruses or bacteria as well. If you're taking steroids or prednisone for any chronic condition, I don't want you to stop that, but it's just, your immune system can be weaker because of that, because it's basically down regulating that reactivity, reducing some of that inflammation or natural response. Not sleeping enough. So if you're not getting a good quality sleep, 7, 8 hours ideally, your immune system's not able to fight off things as well either. It's almost like your body then can be in a state of stress. You can release more stress hormones the next day. So your body's basically trying to survive and run away from a bear. There's not that much energy or focus on in that short term fighting off the virus, because the bear eating you is going to kill you a lot quicker than potentially a virus. And if you have food sensitivities or foods that your immune system is building antibodies to, that can weaken your immune system too. So your antibodies aren't used to, or your immune energy, I should say, is not used to fight off the infection. It's responding to foods in a negative way, and that adds to inflammation.
Dr. Weiss, can I just jump in with a question? So lack of protein in the diet for a lot of seniors is an issue. Can you just go through some ways that someone knows they might not be getting enough protein in their diet?
Totally. So a big one is you're not able to build muscle, right? That can be a testosterone issue, a cortisol issue, but you're not able to build muscle. Let's say you're doing some strength training and you're like, oh, I'm not getting stronger, nothing's changing. That can be a sign. Even if you get, hungry soon after eating, you're probably not getting enough protein and fat either, because that's going to keep you fuller longer as well. Some people, if they're not getting enough protein, they might notice a little bit of hair loss or hair thinning too. That can be an iron or thyroid issue as well. But those can be kind of the major signs. You're not building muscle. You might have you're feeling hungry, you're feeling tired too if you're not getting enough protein, and you might notice a bit of hair loss. Do you see anything else, Erin, as a sign for you when they're not getting enough protein?
Those are the big ones for sure. Fatigue comes up a lot, but totally, I just wanted to mention it because it's a common discussion we have with our clients about how much protein they need.
Yeah, it's so key. And usually breakfast is devoid of it, right? It's cereal or oatmeal, yogurt, fruit. Maybe the yogurt has a bit of protein, but yeah, you want to get a good amount in the morning. Our immune system can be lowered by toxins. That's a whole other topic, but that definitely impacts how our body works. By suppressing fever, right? If we don't induce or support that natural fever, then our body's not going to fight off the infection so well. So if we're, constantly reaching for the Advil, the Motrin, the Tylenol, then we're not going to get that efficient response to fight it off. But again, there can be times and places where you need those. And if someone's, so uncomfortable when you see kids with a fever and they're just like ready to jump out of your skin, I understand why people give that, but with the idea, you're not giving it to suppress the fever, you're just doing it to make them comfortable, unless it's a really high fever. Lack of exercise can lower your immune system. You're not going to get the same circulation. You're not going to get the delivery of those immune cells to fight off the infection. And then we know exercise reduces stress. You're going to sleep better. Typically when you're exercising, you're eating better. So there's all of these benefits from exercise. Hence, if you're not seeing Erin or have an exercise regime, definitely make sure that's part of your program, but you don't want to over exercise, right? That can be negative for the immune system too. If someone's had to take so many antibiotics, that wipes out our gut bacteria, and most of our immune system, 70% of our immune system, 70, and I don't even think it was on that picture, is found in your gut. In there govern your immune response. And that's why the foods we eat really impacts our immune response as well. So if you need an antibiotic, fine, no problem. Make sure you're taking a probiotic a few hours away from that, but make sure you're using an antibiotic only when you need it. I think you guys can still hear me. It just said my internet was a bit unstable, but let me know in the chat if something happens. And then if you're deficient in certain vitamins and minerals, which we'll get to, you're not going to be able to fight off an infection as well, because these directly influence our immune cells and how they work. And some nutrients can have antiviral activity too. So we talked about fever. So that's one of our first lines of defense, as well as our barriers in our system. So bacteria and viruses can have like a party. I'll show you a picture on the next slide at our normal body temperature. They're like, great, I can replicate and survive. And viruses use our cells to replicate and survive. But if our temperature goes up with a fever, so our white blood cells actually release substances when they're fighting an infection to trigger our body temperature to increase, so that then those germs hopefully won't be able to thrive and our immune system will fight it off. But moderately high fevers may occur with minor illness. So it's important to note, the worse a fever is, it doesn't actually mean it's a worse illness. It just means your body's having a strong response to try to fight it off. So it's not always the case. The higher the fever, the worse the illness. Not always the case, but again, everything's on a case-by-case basis. And we want to be concerned if there's unexplained fevers or those in infants or young children, then you definitely want to, get that checked out and get support for that. But in general, if you can be a little bit uncomfortable with a low-grade fever, allow your body to run its course, and sometimes that's enough to fight the infection. So here's a picture of germs on Motrin. So on the, NSAID, like an Advil, like a fever or temperature suppressor, they're happy, they're thriving, they're surviving. It might last longer. Germs on a fever, they're like, oh, the party's over. I'm not gonna be able to live for very much longer. So let's get into some immune supporting tips. There's different times where we want to boost your immune system and different times where we want to balance and support it, especially if a virus has different phases, right? So with a virus, we want to prevent getting sick. We have the infection phase where you might want to support or boost your immune system to fight it off. But then sometimes it can move into kind of an inflammatory phase. We might switch our strategy during that phase to balance or downregulate the inflammation a bit. And then there might be a different strategy for recovery to kind of build your system back up. But right now we're talking about, prevention. I'm not telling you what to do when or if you do get sick, but we already talked about, reducing stress is key. So taking things off your plate, saying no to things, having stress relieving outlets, whether it's exercise, meditation, etc. So that's key. That can be a whole other topic. Sleep is really key. Your immune activity is going to be less if you haven't had a good night's sleep or a good quality sleep. Your cortisol, your stress hormone is going to be higher the next day, so your immune system's weakened. And if you're not sleeping, you're probably going to crave more sugars and things to boost your energy, which can be nutrient devoid. And I talked about how the sugar can impair your immune function for up to 5 hours or more after. A huge vitamin for immune system. Yes, we always think vitamin C, and that is important for immune system function. Vitamin D is really key for our immunity. It's actually a pro-hormone, so it's not technically a vitamin. It's used by thousands of our genes, and there's receptors on our cells for it. So it's involved in so many mechanisms in our body. But vitamin D, it has anti-inflammatory properties. It helps our immune system respond better. And we'll get into a little bit more in a few slides about that, but you want to get tested for certain things too. Your vitamin D level, know your level, especially now. There's an association between low vitamin D levels and worse COVID-19 outcomes. So I said association, again, nothing is proven, but know your levels and then know what amount you should take based on that, right? So we'll get into that a bit more. You can get tested for food sensitivities with your naturopathic doctor, with me, so then you can avoid those for a period of time. You can get tested for your stress hormone levels. Urine and saliva is a great way to do it. You can get it tested in blood too. We talked about exercise, so moderate exercise, get moving, get outside. There is something called the, forest bathing or the nature cure. So getting into nature is so healing for our stress response, our immune system. And even laughing can increase some of our immune cells so we can fight off infection better. And it increases what we call IgA in our saliva to fight off an infection. And I see you back here, and so there must be a question. I'm not good at checking that.
Yeah, so the question is, Claudette, nice to see you again. Claudette's asking, does it matter if you go to sleep late if you still get your 7 or 8 hours?
So some people are night owls, some people are morning larks. So as long as you're getting, your hours, like your 7, 8 hours, you're waking up rested, you're having a good quality of sleep, that's what you want to aim for, right? If you're not one that goes to bed earlier, don't try to force it. You may release more melatonin if you're following your sleep cycle closer to the sun and the moon cycle. We're obviously not going to go to bed right now when it's like, 6 o'clock when it's dark. But you may have better melatonin hormone release, which is actually helps our immune system too. Is kind of like a protective anti-aging kind of hormone. But yeah, focus on getting your 7-8 hours good quality of sleep. It doesn't have to be at a specific time if that's not right for your body. But good question. And then let's go through some immune boosting foods. So there's so many great ones out there, but we'll go through, top 10 that you can kind of include right now. So bone broth is so great to get in, whether you're making it in a slow cooker, on the stove for hours and hours and hours at end, or an instant pot, you can make it within 2 hours. You get a lot of support for your digestive system, even for your joints too. So if we're healing our digestive system, then you're going to strengthen your immune system as well, because most of our immune system is in our gut. And the components in, chicken soup and bone broth can increase our white blood cells and support their activity as well. And there can be lots of nutrients in there, especially the longer you cook it. I'm going to give you a recipe for a ginger and turmeric tea. It's so simple to make, but we know these are great, powerful foods to, support circulation, to increase our immune response, to support digestion. And it's interesting because they're warming too, right? So anything that's warming may help make our fever a bit more efficient. So that's interesting to note too. Garlic, has antiviral, antimicrobial properties to it. Also great for our heart as well. Vegetables that are orange and red, fruits that are orange and red, they have a lot of beta carotene in them. So this is a pro vitamin A. Vitamin A is really good for our immune system too. So just try to eat a rainbow of fruits and vegetables every day, focusing on, more vegetables than fruit, because fruit has sugar as well, but it is, natural, packaged with fiber. But get a nice rainbow of vegetables and some fruit every day. Green vegetables, you're getting a lot of alkalizing nutrients, so that can strengthen our immune system. Potassium as well. These can just help keep kind of inflammation and oxidation low. Spicy foods, for example, cayenne supports circulation as well. And when you're circulating your blood and lymph fluid, lymph especially is circulated well with exercise, you're going to have a stronger immune response. Mushrooms, we know, contain components that build our system up, so you can cook with them. There's lots of mushroom coffees and things you can drink, or elixirs you can take. Again, see your healthcare practitioner to see what's right for you. Berries, so I know it's not really berry season, but you can get frozen organic berries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, etc. And citrus fruits have a lot of the vitamin C, as do the berries too. So squeezing fresh lemon or lime in water, using the zest of organic lemon and limes to your salad dressings or food are really good as well. So an easy immune boosting tea is you basically buy ginger root, turmeric root. Oh, you're back. I can do this after.
No, I just had another question come up from Dee. She's saying, if other than yogurt, what do you suggest for protein in the morning? I had written about eggs, if you're not a vegan, are a good source, and nut butters. Is there anything else you'd add to that?
Sorry, you said specifically for breakfast, or?
Yeah, I think sometimes just people have a hard time coming up with things they want to eat in the morning that are high in protein.
For sure. So I love adding hemp seeds to things. If someone's having an oatmeal, a cereal, a smoothie, that's a good source of protein. I am a fan of collagen powder. So from grass-fed bovine, a tablespoon has 10 grams of protein. People are mixing that in their coffee, tea, smoothie, oatmeal, add it to your cereal. It actually doesn't taste like anything. I've never had the marine one. Apparently that tastes a bit fishy, but the bovine grass-fed source is quick and easy to add. And then I do have a favorite protein powder, a pumpkin seed protein powder. Nothing else is added to it, but even kids like it. It tastes just like natural. It doesn't have stevia or anything in it. So you can add that to your oatmeal, add some to your cereal, to your smoothie, etc.
That's great. Thank you.
That's a good question. Yeah, because breakfast can be tricky to get in, right? So hopefully that gives you some options. A lot of you probably make, a nice ginger tea. You can get fresh ginger root, fresh turmeric root. Some of the health food stores and grocery stores carry turmeric root. It looks like ginger, but it's bright orange. You might want to wear vinyl gloves. Your hands will get stained orange from the turmeric when you're grating and peeling it. But peel it, grate it, throw a bunch in the pot, fill it up with water, bring it to a boil, cover and simmer for 10 minutes. And then you want to add a little bit of black pepper, helps you absorb the turmeric in there, or a little bit of coconut oil. That healthy fat helps you absorb it. Strain it, pour a little bit into a mug, put a little bit of fresh lemon juice. And if you need it to be sweeter, which, you know, I think it tastes good without the honey, but you could add a little bit of honey in there too, and drink that during the cold and flu season. It's just going to keep you warm and strengthen your system as well. You can bring it to room temperature, keep the whole batch in the fridge and kind of heat it up a little bit every day. Even in the summer, we'll drink it iced. It's really nice too. So the foods you want to avoid or limit to strengthen your immune system are foods that you're sensitive to if you do that food sensitivity test. Anything that's processed, sugary, or fried, it's devoid of nutrients. And we talked about that sugar effect weakening your immune system. The last one's kind of interesting. People are always like, really? I have to avoid nuts and seeds. Aren't these healthy? Well, yes, they are. But when you have a suspected virus, viruses use the amino acid arginine. So that's from protein to replicate. So, you know, people have cold sores, that's a virus, right? HSV. And they might notice chocolate makes it worse, or nuts and seeds, because it's giving the virus from these foods, they're high in arginine. It gives the virus more arginine to replicate. So if you're sick and you think it's a virus, no harm in just taking a break from these for a little while, and then you can reintroduce them. You know, don't think there's anything healthy about corn. I'd take chocolate over it any day, but limiting some of those foods may help to slow the virus replication. Vitamin D3, so huge immune heavyweight here. So we know that it decreases inflammation and it improves lung function. And there's been a ton of studies done on other infections before COVID, and there's dozens coming out over the next few months about vitamin D and COVID. So keep your eyes on you know, the research there. But if you have low vitamin D levels, I'll go through what that looks like. You're 27 to 55% more likely to get an upper respiratory tract infection than if you had sufficient levels. So that's powerful. It's easy to test for, easy to take. You can get some from foods, so cod liver oil, fatty fish. Some foods are fortified with it, but people typically still tend to be low. So get tested. That's the best way to know if you're low or not. And so many people say to me, I'm in the sun all the time, you know, even in the winter, I'm sure I'm fine. If you're wearing clothes and sunscreen, that can impact how you're making vitamin D. I'll show you how we make vitamin D. I think it's the next slide. And being in Canada, you know, probably 6 to 8 months out of the year, the sun's probably not close enough to make a significant amount. The only way you know if you have enough vitamin D is to get your levels tested with your doctor. So you can ask for that, or naturopathic doctors, and you can order that as well. So this is how you make vitamin D. Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, I was just going to say that it's probably worth talking about all supplements are not created equal, because there's so much in the news about vitamin D. A lot of our clients are purchasing low quality supplements and maybe not as effective. And also there's some of the food source ones, you know, can be more effective than certain supplements. So just because you're taking a kind of a cheap supplement every day, don't assume that it means that you have your vitamin D levels covered off.
Yeah, so vitamins and supplements aren't meant to replace a healthy diet. They're meant to augment it, right? So we don't want to say, oh, I'm taking all these things, I can just eat, you know, crappy food. So yeah, one of the best absorbed forms of vitamin D is through cod liver oil, because vitamin D is fat soluble. So you want to have it with some fat, so you're going to absorb it a lot better. So that's a great source. Fish is a better source too, but you typically still can be low if you're getting these on a regular basis. So get your blood levels checked. Vitamin D, I find with the little tablets, they're not as well absorbed as a liquid supplement. So getting it in a little bit of like coconut oil, they usually add it to, that can help enhance your absorption as well. And making sure when you're taking it, you have some healthy fat in your diet, whether it's from nuts and seeds or hemp seed or olive oil or avocado, that's going to help to enhance your absorption as well. And when you're looking at supplements, you always want to look at the label. So you want to see, first of all, what is the amount of the vitamin or supplement and what's the serving size, so you have an idea, because sometimes it looks like it's a good amount, but you have to take, you know, 10 capsules to get the 1,000 of vitamin D. That's, you know, not usual for vitamin D, but maybe for fish oil, for example. So you want to look at the serving size and the amount. You want to look at the excipients, the extra ingredients there. Is there a lot of stuff in there that you're like, Why is that in there? Why is there red dye number 10? Why is there these weird preservatives? I don't recognize what these ingredients are. That can be a red flag too. And with different vitamins and minerals, yes, some are a lot cheaper, some are more expensive. Some forms of vitamins you get in activated forms, activated, not inactivated, but they're more activated, so you might have a better response to them. Some are older forms of vitamins or minerals where they're bound to other things that you may not use as well. So it can be different for different vitamins. In vitamin D, go for a liquid. Usually vitamin C, you can get away with like a cheaper brand, like it's ascorbic acid is vitamin C, as long as there's not a lot of those extra bad excipients in there. But when it comes to things like fish oil, you want a good quality one because you want to know that they test for all those heavy metals and dioxins and PCBs and things to make sure they're well below acceptable levels. So that's a little bit of a looking for supplements in a nutshell. I look at the time and I always have more to talk about than I think, so I apologize. But here's the image of how we make vitamin D. We actually make it from the sun hitting our skin. There's a form of cholesterol in our skin. So we actually need cholesterol to make vitamin D in our hormones. It's not like, oh my gosh, cholesterol is like the worst thing ever. We actually need it. So the skin activates that substance called dehydrocholesterol, and we convert it to vitamin D3, which we call cholecalciferol. Doesn't really matter the names, but so we can make it from the sun, or you can take it from your food sources or supplement sources. You can get supplements. D3 is typically the supplements now. I think this slide is a little bit old. D2 is usually like a fungi source, a plant source. Vitamin D3 from food, you can get like fish or meat, for example. So it goes to the liver, and then we actually convert it to, this is called calcidiol, 25 hydroxy vitamin D3. And then we need the kidney to activate it one step further to the calcitriol, which is the 125 dihydroxy vitamin D3. So that's kind of where we want it to go. So if someone has a liver or kidney issue, they're not necessarily going to convert the vitamin D to have it in its active form to make it have the best effect in the body.
So Dr. Weeks, just a couple of questions, and you might be answering it here, but one is, what are some good brands to buy for vitamin D, you know, if I'm at Shoppers Drug Mart? And then an add-on question is, how much vitamin D do I need?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are good questions. So how much you need is different than somebody else, right? Because I'll go through what can impair vitamin D production or absorption for you. So getting tested and then having a healthcare practitioner come up with a strategy. Sometimes people will take, 3,000 units for 2 to 3 months to get their levels up, and then they might go to 2,000 IUs or international units a day after that. In terms of brands, as a naturopath, I'm not really supposed to endorse certain brands, but look for one that's in a coconut oil or a liquid form, right? Tablets typically aren't good for vitamin D, so you can find that pretty easily at your regular Shoppers Drug Mart too. So that's an easy one to find. They have a dosage for kids, 400, a dosage for adults, 1,000. Sometimes kids need the 1,000 though, maybe during the cold and flu season. So, but we'll go through what can impair your levels. But get tested, ask your doctor. Sometimes it's covered by OHIP. Sometimes you have to pay $35, $40. Good to know. It's so important to know your levels because we look at vitamin D to help prevent autoimmune conditions, support bone health, support immunity, potentially, protecting against cancer. So you want to know your levels. So you get the blood test done and it tells you if you're deficient, you're under 30. You don't have to worry about the units. This is the Canadian units. You're optimal if you're 75 to 125. I just got some results this week from a few patients, 62, 63. One was taking vitamin D tablets, not for long, but for a few years, 1,000 units a day. One's never taken vitamin D. I just got my blood levels tested again. I like to get it tested every few years. I'm at 100, and that's me taking vitamin D every day since I, started practice and I was a naturopathic student. So we're talking about, 17, 18 years I've been taking vitamin D. So toxicity you can get if you're 125 and over. I rarely see anybody get that unless someone's told them to take 10,000 units a day for a couple of months, 5,000 units a day after that, but get your levels tested. We can be deficient in vitamin D if we're not getting outside. So you're not getting that sun exposure. When people are obese, they can't make as much vitamin D or they can't use it as well. If you have issues with poor fat absorption, if you've had your gallbladder removed, that does help with absorbing fat soluble vitamins. You may be lower than somebody who has a gallbladder. If you have kidney disorders or problems, you might not be activating the vitamin D. As we age, we can't make as much vitamin D, whether it's our liver or kidney not working well, we're not absorbing things as well through our digestive system, or maybe we're not eating as well. If you have darker skin, you can't make as much from the sun. If you've had gastric bypass surgery, you can be deficient, and different medications can lower your levels, whether it's through, absorption or other mechanisms. So statins, steroids, thiazide diuretics, so things for high cholesterol, inflammation, hypertension. Again, don't get off your medication, but just get tested and see where you're at and see if you need to replace for that. D3 versus D2, I kind of touched on this. We don't have to go deep, but D3 as the animal source. So in supplements, they get it from washing lamb's wool, and they use the lanolin to make the vitamin D3. If you're vegan or vegetarian, some are okay with that, some aren't. The sheep aren't killed. But you can also get it from a plant source, the D2 ergocalciferol. It's either like a fungi yeast plant source that they use. But we're noticing vitamin D3 raises your blood levels of that 25-hydroxy vitamin D more effectively than D2. They were using D2, I think, because they could give it in huge amounts at one time without like a huge pill or supplement, whereas D3, you maybe can't package as much into the same size supplement. So go for a D3. If you get too much vitamin D, you can have problems. You might have nausea, vomiting, or weakness. You might get pain in the body, low appetite, dehydration, more urination, more thirst, maybe some kidney stones too. But honestly, this is pretty rare, but get tested. If you're low in vitamin D, you can have bone pain, muscle pain, aches. You're getting sick more, fatigue. And a lot of people, if they're low in vitamin D and they start supplementing, like, whoa, I feel a big difference. Like, I didn't realize something like vitamin D might help reduce some of the aches and pains or the fatigue. There's other issues for those too, but if you're low, you want to correct that. In extreme cases, you can have arrhythmias and death, but most people don't get there. Oops, why did I escape? Sorry. Let me go back to present. So we're getting through. We're almost there. I think we're at 11:45. Is this okay to continue, Erin, or I'll probably be about 5 more minutes?
Yeah, continue. I'm recording it as well. So anyone, if they have to drop off, then I will send you the recording. So it's really great information.
Oh, thank you. So vitamin C, we know, is a heavyweight for the immune system. It does enhance our resistance to infections, and it is an antioxidant. If someone has enough vitamin D or vitamin C in their system, they're less likely to go into sepsis and less likely to have issues with like a systemic kind of infection in the body. So in times of stress or illness, we need to take more, typically more than what we can get from our food. Some people might need 500, 1,000 milligrams a day. If you get too much, it'll give you loose stools. We call that bowel tolerance. So you kind of back it off a little bit if you've taken too much. We know a lot of the food sources, typically people think oranges, but did you know, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, these have good amounts of vitamin C, berries, spinach, rosehip tea. So get a nice variety and color of foods to get it in. Zinc, we know, is another immune heavyweight. So it optimizes your immune cell response and function. They're looking at it. So it's been shown in vitro. So in a Petri SARS-CoV-1. So that's not SARS-CoV-2 or COVID. It's inhibited the replication of the virus. So they're starting to study this, does it impact the replication of SARS-CoV-2? It has been shown to reduce the duration of the common cold if you do get sick. You can supplement zinc without copper if you're doing it kind of for a few months at a time, not extremely high dose. But if you take zinc high dose for a longer period of time, you might need it with a bit of copper. Copper protects our DNA, so you want to make sure you don't get deficient from taking too much zinc in that. Mushrooms are a great source, spinach, sea vegetables, oysters, we always think of, right? Pumpkin seeds are a great source of that pumpkin seed protein. I like pumpkin seed butter, is delicious. I don't know if you tried that. Just pumpkin seeds themselves can be great, and animal sources have zinc as well. N-acetylcysteine. So this is basically an amino acid. So you can get it from protein, and it supports an antioxidant or detoxifying agent called glutathione. So it's known to protect those mucous membranes in our respiratory tract. It actually helps to break down mucus and congestion as well. It strengthens our lung functions, reduces inflammation. You can get it from meat, dairy, eggs, nuts, seeds, and fish, but it does come in a supplement form too. So they're starting to study this a bit in terms of immune function as well. And it has been studied in the past too. Quercetin you may have heard about. This is called a bioflavonoid. It helps us absorb our vitamin C, but it also helps to bring zinc into the cell, which may theoretically help to slow that viral protection. We use it a lot for allergies. It has like a natural antihistamine, anti-mast cell effect as well. The highest sources would be capers, apples and red onions have really good amounts, but sometimes you need a little bit extra too. But you can also get it from tea, green tea, black tea, red wine. Don't go drink enough of that to get enough quercetin, but all of these sources can add up, right? Probiotics, as I mentioned, most of your immune system's found in your gut. So what bacteria lining your gut really influence your immune response and help to increase antibody production. That's what helps to neutralize and get rid of the infectious component. So fermented foods have probiotics, yogurt, kefir. Again, be careful with the sugar amount in some of the yogurts out there. And if there's anything artificial, that's going to, act in a negative way to you. Things like sauerkraut, kimchi, so great to add a little bit to your salads every day. Kombucha, be careful again about the sugar content of that, but a nice variety. And sometimes you do need to supplement with probiotics during the cold and flu season, or if you have any gut issues, digestive issues. They studied probiotics a lot in kids. So children aged 3 to 5 in daycare were given probiotics. And some weren't. Those that were given probiotics had a 45% lower risk of getting a fever, cough, and runny nose than those who didn't get the probiotics. And if those kids did get sick, if they were given a probiotic, they got sick for 2 less days than people that didn't take the probiotic, and they were less likely to need antibiotics. So it sounds weird, but the bacteria in our gut will influence our chance of getting sick, how long it lasts, and if we need to do anything more drastic to get over it. So prevention, you guys know all of these pretty much, wash your hands, 20 seconds, use hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol, wear your mask, physically distance, cough or sneeze into your sleeve, don't touch your eyes, nose, and mouth. Even just blowing your nose after you're out can help release if you've been breathed in anything, although you should be wearing your mask. Staying hydrated just keeps those mucous membranes strong and resistant. Doing steam inhalation, neti pot can just flush out, if you're exposed to viruses and breathing them in. If you do those pretty soon after, maybe it'll stop the adherence of those from penetrating and getting in even sooner. Other nutrients and herbs, I won't go through these, but there's a time and a place for these. These can make a difference, like fish oil, melatonin. We talked about garlic already, curcumin, astragalus, fish oils twice, echinacea, vitamin A. But don't go out and buy all these things. You don't need all of these things. The more lifestyle changes, the healthier you're eating, the better you're sleeping, the less supplements you're going to need. So we'll get into the top 5 health mistakes that I can see seniors make when I see them as patients. But I don't know if I should stop there for any immune questions, or should I power through because we're 11:51.
I think power through. I'm kind of answering questions as they come up.
Okay,
awesome.
Great. Yeah. So eating. So one thing I see is eating low fat foods. We used to think it was healthy to eat low fat foods, right? There was that big craze, fat is bad, but most of our brain is made up of fat. Fat keeps us full. It keeps our hormones balanced. So you want to get good, healthy sources of fat, right? Like fish oil, fish, nuts, and helps just with general hormone balance into that, but we already talked about low protein. Another big concern I see is sometimes seniors aren't drinking enough water, and it may be a valid reason. You know, a man has a prostate concern and he's going to wake up 10 times in the night. So then it's looking at, okay, well, are you having coffee or tea? That's a diuretic. Are you having a lot of alcohol? Can we kind of wean that down? Is that possible? Get your water in sooner in the day, maybe mixing it, you know, with a little bit of coconut water or sea salt so you absorb it even better and not urinate it out. You know, a woman after she's had a baby, or if you have some, you know, pelvic floor issues, I understand too, but just being conscious of ways to get it in, and having lots of watery foods is good too. If you're not eating a lot of packaged or processed foods, those are typically devoid of water, high in salt. But if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, you know, real whole foods, you're getting water from your food too, which is great. Another big mistake I see is juice consumption, orange juice. You know, I saw this with my grandmas when they were alive. My grandma was diagnosed with diabetes and she was drinking orange juice for breakfast. I was like, I understand you think it's healthy because yeah, there's vitamin C in it, but it's basically, it sounds harsh, but I see juice kind of as glorified sugar water if it's from a fruit, especially, right? So yes, you might be getting some vitamins and minerals in there, but you're really going to raise your blood sugar levels. The fiber's been taken out if it's just pure juice. So eat the fruit instead of having the juice. Water is really key to get in. Another mistake, although a bunch of you here, I'm sure, are moving regularly and exercising, so we can become sedentary as we get older, right? We sit more, we don't move around. So having a good exercise routine is key, getting in little exercise snacks, doing housework, going up and down the stairs, going around the block, you know, every few hours, just and mobility, and let alone we know all the mental health effects, heart health effects, preventing against dementia and diabetes, and so much more. But I don't think I need to preach to the converted, those who are here. And then the last one, this is a big concern for seniors, as you know, maybe they're living alone, losing partners, kids have moved out. Seniors can start to feel really lonely, and even during COVID and the isolation, more and more people who live alone too, this is a big concern. So we know that it weakens our immune system, but loneliness and weak social connections, they're associated with a reduction in lifespan similar to that by smoking 15 cigarettes per day, and even greater than that associated with obesity. So this is something that can be changed. Sometimes you can feel stuck and really alone, but I think reaching out to, you know, a workout community, something online right now, I know it's harder to do in person, can really influence your health incomes. And loneliness does affect 25 to 60% of older Americans. It's almost as prevalent as obesity, and it puts so many people at risk. It's actually the #1 cause of mortality. Social isolation is the #1 cause of mortality. I'll just say that again because I think it's shocking for a lot of people. More than smoking, alcohol consumption, and poor nutrition. So that needs to be part of someone's health plan. How do I connect with people? So those would be the top 5 mistakes I see happen. So I know you have a success story here, Erin. Did you want to share that?
Yeah, she's actually on the call. So this is Pamela, just to give you a sense of what a vintage success story looks like. So kind of worked with us for years and years. She works with one of our fabulous downtown trainers, Dee. She had a double knee replacement, and now she does 40, kind of sitting into the chair and up in under 3 minutes, which is just amazing in terms of independence. Unable to get down and up off the floor. So this is an issue that if you're living independently, it's something that's really important in terms of being safe, living independently. So she now, Dee gets her to get up and down off the floor at least 6 times a week in her training. Pamela, last time I talked to her, said it's not graceful, but I do it. So it's so amazing. And then depression, you know, and the link between depression and exercise and vitamins. So just to give you a sense of what a vintage client success story could look like.
Amazing. Way to go, Pamela. So you stuck with it and you're seeing these tangible changes. I love how you track that, Erin, because sometimes we like, oh, maybe I'm noticing a difference, but really, you know, counting the sits to stands and all of these parameters, just monitoring, I think is so powerful. That's great. So thanks for sharing that. And then we have any questions, and I'll just put, oh, sorry, this is yours too. I know you've been answering the questions, and then I'll just share, if you reach me or contact me, I can send you my immune support recipe booklet too, so you can get some extra things to make to enhance your nutrition.
Great. So one question Kathleen had was, if you have sleep apnea, should you take melatonin? That's one question that came up.
Yeah, there wouldn't be so it potentially could help, right? It potentially could help your sleep. Some people with melatonin, the thing they don't like about it, sometimes they notice they have more vivid dreams. They might wake feeling groggy. So it's getting the right amount. If you take too much, you can have those effects. Or the melatonin can help with your sleep quality. It's not necessarily going to get rid of your, sleep apnea. For that, it's, supporting, if you're kind of have inflammation in the airways when you're sleeping, that could be dietary, environmentally related. Sometimes it can be related to obesity and weight on the neck, but melatonin can help enhance quality of sleep. So it is a good sleep support supplement. Just be careful of the dose if you don't want to feel groggy or have too vivid, maybe some weird dreams.
Great. You can shift over. We do have I'm going to do a webinar every 6 weeks. So if you ever, it's a topic you're interested in hearing about, please let me know. And I'd happy to bring on a guest or talk about it if it's something that me or one of my team knows a lot about. And then Dr. Weeks, you have your contact info there.
Oh yeah, I'll put that up here. Yeah, so if you want to get that immune boosting recipe booklet, you can email me or text me with your email address. That's my work number. Or if you want one-on-one support, you can book in for an individualized naturopathic visit. I'm doing some virtual consults, some in person for acupuncture and physical examination, but you can book a free 15-minute, discovery session, info session with me to make sure it's a right fit. And before you start any supplements or regimes, be sure to consult with your healthcare practitioner, right? I was just thinking even melatonin, if someone's taking like a benzodiazepine, taking even something natural.
That's great. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much. I highly recommend Dr. Weeks as a naturopathic doctor. I will send you a copy of this recording if you have to jump off. But listen, I really appreciate it. I hope everyone gets outside and goes for a walk today. It's gorgeous. And have a wonderful day. Thanks so much, Dr. Weeks.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, if you're not moving and exercising with Erin, be sure to reach out to her and start scheduling those sessions too.
Okay. All right.
Well,
have a great Monday, everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.